Hi everyone, I'm Gabby.
And I'm Jay.
And this is our journey to retire all over. On this channel, we are sharing our experience as we get ready to retire in 5 years or so, and then spend the rest of our lives exploring the world.
Well, today we're going to talk about cryptocurrencies, what they are, how they work, why they exist, and what role they play in our investment portfolio. But please, first smash the like button to help us with the YouTube algorithm, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified whenever we post new content.
Ever since we started making these videos and talking about investing, the question we always get is, what about Bitcoin? Cryptocurrency is such an interesting and complex topic, but what is it? Where did it come from? Why was it on Saturday Night Live the other day? And do we invest or plan to invest in it?
Well, a little history. Most of the earlier forms of currency were representative. A coin represented a specific good, like a bag of rice or a hen, or slightly more recently, during the gold standard, the US dollar represented a certain amount of gold in the US gold reserves. That was until 1933, when FDR took the USA from the gold standard to the US dollar being backed by the strength of the US federal government to pay its debts. This is called a fiat currency.
So that's great and all, but what is cryptocurrency? Well, according to the dictionary, for something to be called a cryptocurrency, it must be a form of currency that only exists digitally, rely on cryptography to prevent counterfeiting and fraudulent transactions, use a decentralized system to record transactions and manage the issuance of new units, and finally, not have a central issuing or regulating authority.
Because it can only exist digitally, a cryptocurrency cannot have a physical representation of it. It's not a bill you could drop and lose. It's not a gold coin that someone could steal. Most importantly, being digital helps avoid being counterfeited. Counterfeiting is a huge problem in most currencies, from something as simple as coating a lead coin in gold so it looks valuable, to making copies of bills. Every few years, for example, the U.S. Treasury issues redesigned bills designed to stop counterfeiters. Credit card companies have moved from magnetic stripes to chip and pin to tap, all in an effort to combat fraud and counterfeiting. Digital currency has been researched for as long as computers have existed, but since duplicating digital content is so easy, early digital currencies were just unworkable. But the rise of very powerful computers and very strong cryptographic mechanisms have changed the game. To put some perspective into it, it would take more time to break the current cryptographic protocols like SHA-256 than the Earth has existed up to this point.
The decentralized transaction record is the blockchain, a record-keeping system. It is the backbone of any cryptocurrency system. In a traditional bank, you would have your ledger normally on your bank app. It shows how much you've deposited, how much you've withdrawn, how much you've paid to someone. In the cryptocurrency world, that would be your wallet. The bank itself has a much larger ledger showing the total transactions of all accounts held with the bank. For cryptocurrency, that's the blockchain. For example, Bitcoin has its blockchain, which shows every transaction ever made. A copy of this blockchain is downloaded to any computer that has a wallet and is constantly syncing.
Every time a transaction is made, it's written to the blockchain and validated by powerful computers to make sure that the transaction happened as such. It's a mathematical computation that reviews the blockchain copies across the Bitcoin community to confirm each transaction. If one person creates a transaction and the rest of the ledgers don't agree, then that transaction is removed from the entire blockchain. Those who validate the transactions receive Bitcoin credit for their service. That's called mining. It's how you create new crypto coins. Because the blockchain itself is cryptographically signed and every transaction is validated and signed, it is incredibly difficult. Nothing's impossible, but this is pretty close, to counterfeit a transaction or the actual cryptocurrency itself.
Finally, a true cryptocurrency does not have a central authority controlling it. Some banks and businesses have tried creating their own cryptocurrency, and that would make them the regulating authority, which defeats the purpose. Now, there's a lot of different cryptocurrencies out there. Each is slightly different, but they all have these 4 basic underlying principles. Whew, that was a lot, but now let's get to the why of cryptocurrency. Why create it? Why use it? Well, from a purely practical standpoint, it's great not to ever have to carry money or credit cards or anything like that. Also, it allows you to be independent of a specific currency. Do you often buy things in other countries and want to avoid currency exchange fees? Crypto has you covered.
But what many value the most is the privacy and anonymity it provides because it doesn't have a regulating authority. Do you believe that it's no one's business how you spend your money? Do you want to avoid being profiled by credit card companies or banks? Maybe you just want to be off the grid as much as possible. Well, cryptocurrency enables these things to a degree just not possible before.
Or maybe, just maybe, you have some more nefarious purposes in mind. Maybe you like being able to buy drugs without there being any way of tracing it back to you. Cryptocurrency can also help with that.
Now let us be clear, absolutely clear. Cryptocurrency itself is completely legal to buy, have, use, sell, whatever. It's just like cash is. It's what you do with it that could be illegal. That's between you and your conscience. But if you want to get into the cryptocurrency game, there are a lot of cryptocurrencies and the list changes almost daily. Some of the more popular cryptocurrencies are Ethereum, Litecoin, Monero, and the more recently popularized Dogecoin, which was created as a joke about a meme. By far the most well-known and popular cryptocurrency is the one that started them all, Bitcoin. Now, we're not going to go through the history of Bitcoin. There are a million sites out there talking about it, and we'll add some links for you in the description.
So finally, do we invest in cryptocurrency? Nope, at least not at this time. We feel that cryptocurrency is way too volatile to invest any significant amount of money in. It's a gamble right now. Cryptocurrency, like most currencies, does not represent any specific good that could suddenly disappear. Great. But it is also not backed by any government either. Cryptocurrency is literally only as valuable as people agree that it is. This makes it vulnerable to speculation. For example, when Elon Musk announced Tesla would start accepting Bitcoin, its value spiked. And then, a few weeks later, he recanted saying that Bitcoin was bad for the environment, which caused the price to plummet.
So let's take a look at the 3-month historical chart for Bitcoin. In just these 3 months, Bitcoin gained 40%, and it also dropped 70%. That wiped out all the gains and resulted in a net loss of about 29% in total. Other cryptocurrencies have even greater fluctuation, and still others are never worth anything at all. This type of volatility is completely against what we're interested in as investors. Since we're planning to retire in just 5 years, we can't afford the gamble. Check out our video on how we invest our money for a deep dive into how we approach our investments. Long story short, we invest in low-cost index funds. These are comparatively low return.
Although last year we did get 21% return.
But they're also very low risk. Your tolerance for risk might be different. There are potentially huge upsides on cryptocurrency, but there are also huge downsides. We personally would consider investing in crypto at almost the same level as gambling. And we don't gamble.
Here's the thing. It's hard for us to make an absolute argument against investing in crypto. It's so new that it is possible to make a lot of money quickly if you guess correctly as to which coin will grow and when. It's easy to buy and sell. It's just like stocks and index funds, so it's very convenient. There are even investment organizations that are creating crypto-related ETFs. And if you look at Bitcoin's historic data, it does trend up. But the highs and the lows are too extreme for our timeline. And there are so many out there now. On this chart, for instance, you see that some coins have gained over 97%, but they're still worth less than 1 cent. There are others that have lost 99% of their value in the last 24 hours. That is a crazy amount of risk. But maybe you are a gambler or you have a long time horizon. So this type of investment might interest you. But it's important to know that because there are no regulating authorities, cryptocurrencies are all independent and each one only survives by agreement of enough people that believe it has value. That means that, like stocks of individual companies where you can literally lose all your investment if the company stops operating, if a coin disappears, you lose all your investment. With index funds, we invest in the market as a whole, so we are protected from an individual company ceasing to exist. The rest of the fund covers their losses.
And to top that, there are other risks. In 2014, the crypto exchange called Mt. Gox was processing about 70% of all Bitcoin transactions. Then somehow, over 850,000 Bitcoins disappeared from their ledgers, transferred to other unknown Bitcoin wallets. They've still not been recovered. These types of security issues are still fairly common, and it's estimated that last year alone, over $1.2 billion in cryptocurrency was stolen.
Bottom line, we give you the facts and you make the choice. It can be fun, but if you engage in cryptocurrency investments, make sure you understand the nuances and the risks of them. So, what do you think? Do you like to invest in cryptocurrency? Which is your preferred coin? What do you think of Elon's SNL skit about Dogecoin?
Let us know in the comments below, and follow us on social media or our blog at GabbyandJaysJourney.com or RetireAllOver.com. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell to be notified whenever we post new content.
Until then, please stay safe, do your part, take care of one another, and thank you for joining us.